Welcome, everyone. First, I hope everyone is healthy and safe and doing what they need to do to stay that way. I know many of you, like myself, were probably up late last night and then up again early this morning, watching the events unfold in the Ukraine. And I do just want to take a brief moment to pause in silence, in prayer, and or in hope for peace and prosperity for all of those who stand in solidarity as we do for peace and prosperity in our neighborhoods, our country, and our world. Thank you. My name is Andrea Ray, and I have the pleasure to serve as the President CEO at the Chamber. And on behalf of our board, our staff, our volunteers, we welcome you to our second annual Pacific Northwest Sustainability Summit. Not unlike the constant vigilance that is required to maintain peace and prosperity throughout the world, we know our individual actions matter. And when we work collectively, there is nothing we can't accomplish. And which is why we are so fortunate to bring together subject matter experts, industry leaders, business owners, and community members today to provide insight into the relationship between our businesses, our actions, and our environment, to take our collective impact up a notch for the health of our families, our community, and our world. This event is focused on both celebrating and encouraging businesses of all sizes to seek out sustainable business practices, to support a strong environment, and safeguard against climate change. As we begin our gathering, we respectfully acknowledge that our event today is taking place on occupied Coast Salish land, and the Seattle Southside Chamber is on the homelands of the Duwamish people. We pay respect to Coast Salish elders, past and present, and extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. This copyrighted webinar is presented by the Seattle Southside Chamber of Commerce and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of the Chamber. A few Zoom housekeeping updates, which hopefully this will be the end of it. We'll be back in person again starting next month. Just a reminder for those who are attending, your mic and your video are disabled as this is a webinar and not a meeting. You can go ahead and use that Q&A box there at the bottom if you have any questions for our panelists or our speakers. We hope to have some time at the end for questions. Of course, if you have technical issues, please feel free to use the chat and closed captions are available. Of course, none of this work is possible without the support of our members and our partners. I want to take a huge thank you to our media sponsor, South King Media. Scott and Teresa Schaefer have been tireless advocates for our community. As small business owners themselves, they are dedicated to helping other small businesses grow, as well as keeping our community connected and informed. Scott is recording this event so that those not able to join live can still access the information later at their convenience. Thank you also to our sponsors, BioLife Plasma, the Washington State Department of Commerce, Recology, Puget Sound Energy, Molly's Caribbean, and David Inman Productions. We do have a wonderful door prize, and we appreciate you spending time with us. We know how busy you all are. This door prize is an experience at one of my favorite local restaurants, 909 Coffee and Wine, locally operated in Old Town Burien, and this prize is available thanks to Molly's Caribbean. Molly's Caribbean is a Pacific Northwest travel agency specializing in travel to the Caribbean islands for individuals, groups, incentives, honeymoons, special occasions, and families. Included with your experience package is a bottle of rosé and coffee to bring home. So stay with us through the end for a chance to win. I think I would love to be calling Molly's Caribbean after waking up to snow and ice on my car this morning. Nothing sounds more lovely than a Caribbean vacation about now. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Emily Salzberg from the Energy Division of the Washington State Department of Commerce, here to provide an overview of our state's Clean Buildings Law. Emily, I'm turning it over to you.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Emily Salzberg, and I'm the Deputy Assistant Director at the State Energy Office at Washington State Department of Commerce. And I have been working in the building sector for nearly 20 years now, focusing on building performance and building sector decarbonization. I've had the honor and pleasure of working over the last 3 years on the startup and implementation of the state's Clean Buildings Law. So I was asked to provide a brief introduction and overview of that standard, including the Early Adopter Incentive Program. I'm going to be covering what is typically about 2 hours worth of content in less than 15 minutes, so I'll be talking fast. And please note contact information on the last slide. If there's any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our team. And I'm also happy to field any questions that may come into the Q&A box. All right, as I mentioned, I work within the State Energy Office at the Washington State Department of Commerce. Every state has an energy office, and ours here in Washington is situated within the Department of Commerce. Our purpose is to strengthen communities, commerce's purpose, and commerce touches every aspect of community and economic development. So much content to cover here with this one. But before we get going, I really just want to take a minute to put buildings and the building sector in the context of greenhouse gas emissions and the limits that we have set here in Washington State. So the building sector accounts for over a quarter of all emissions here in the state of Washington. And what's important to note is that it's actually the fastest growing source of emissions. And 40% of the energy used nationally is used by the building sector. So in order for the state to meet our greenhouse gas emissions limits that we have set in statute, we have to take action in the building sector, and specifically with existing buildings. We're not going to make forward progress if we don't address our existing building stock. So as a result of those factors, the Clean Buildings Law was authorized in House Bill 1257 back in 2019. So this was governor request legislation that was supported by the legislature and was enacted into law. So there's 2 main phases for implementation of this law. We have an incentive program, an early adopter incentive program that we just launched July 1st, and we're finalizing and processing through some of our very first applications, which is exciting. And then mandatory compliance will come into play here starting in 2026. And I'll talk a little bit more about the specifics of that shortly. I just got a note to hold out my mic a bit. Okay. Let me know, hopefully that addresses the situation. Okay, so the 2 phases of the implementation, the incentive program and then mandatory compliance. The standard itself applies to buildings over 50,000 square feet. The law itself is based on ASHRAE Standard 100. That's the reference standard. Commerce has developed amendments. These are administrative procedures to the standard to conform with the legislation. And we conducted that rulemaking process through 2019 through 2021 and had a series of 15 stakeholder workshops. We had very robust participation by many stakeholders and partners, and basically landed on the rule set that governs the administration of this law. These amendments and these rules can be found under the Washington Administrative Code, WAC 19450. There's also an integrated document that is posted for free on Commerce's website. So Standard 100 with Washington State amendments is now a free download available on Commerce's website. So the standard itself requires that all buildings benchmark, that they create and implement an operations and maintenance plan and also an energy management plan. Buildings that are determined to be over the energy use intensity target that have been set by building type are then also required to complete a building improvement plan to bring their building within compliance of the target. We do have a number of limited exemptions. There are certain building types or building use activities that are exempt from the standard. An example of this would be manufacturing or industrial. We do have exemptions for financial hardship. So there's a process that building owners can go through if they're experiencing financial hardship, and that is a barrier to them complying with the standard. Compliance is on a 5-year cycle, and it is a building owner obligation. Building owners out of compliance with the standard can face penalties, and we've got a penalty structure that we've set up that is a progressive penalty. There's a grace period that allows for building owners to submit additional documentation if it's just a reporting issue. But if building owners are determined to be significantly out of compliance, Commerce does have authority to issue penalties. Okay, so our work, a big part of our work over the last 2 years was doing what was called building owner notification. And we basically worked through all 39 county assessors' data sets, along with many other publicly available data sets, to identify what we believe to be covered commercial buildings based on what we could ascertain from that data. We posted a parcel list to our website on July 1st, and then we mailed hard copy letters all around the state on October 15th. There was about 15,000 letters that we sent around to building owners. Commerce took a very broad approach to building owner notification. We wanted to ensure we were getting as much information out there as we could. In some instances, there was certain data sets that overestimated or underestimated building size. So we have a few building owners out there that have received a letter even though their buildings aren't covered. If that's the case, or you're a building owner that received a letter and don't believe it applies to you, we just ask that you contact our customer service team. We'll talk through the issue and remove you from the data set. The letters themselves covered a summary of the standard itself, included a list of parcels that were connected to that particular building owner, information on compliance dates, and instructions on how to access the Clean Buildings portal, in addition to a note about the Early Adopter Incentive Program. So the compliance schedule, I mentioned the Early Adopter Incentive Program, and then mandatory compliance starts in 2026, and it is staggered over a 3-year period, starting with the largest buildings first, and this is beginning in 2026. So in this graphic, what you can see is buildings over 220,000 square feet need to comply by June 1st of 2026, and then buildings between 90,000 and 220 on June 1st, 2027, and buildings between 50,000 and 90,000 square feet on June 1st, 2028. This is a process-oriented standard with long lead times to help keep compliance costs down. So it really is most cost-effective to start the compliance process early. One of the key takeaways is, if you've got a covered commercial building, is start benchmarking now. Get in touch with our team and get some more information about what you can do to move forward. All right, I'll talk real briefly about the Early Adopter Incentive Program. Annika McDonald is our program manager for the incentive program and has put together this guidebook, which is an incredibly helpful resource and available on our website. All right, so the law authorized $75 million for buildings that come within early compliance with the standard. It's a performance-based incentive, and it's a one-time base payment of 85 cents per square foot, and it's paid by the utility. When a building is served by more than one participating utility, incentive payments are proportional to the energy use intensity reduction of that participating utility's fuel. The incentive program is managed by Commerce in coordination with utilities and the Department of Revenue. Utilities with over 25,000 customers are required to participate, and utilities with less than 25,000 customers, it's a voluntary program that they can opt into. Utilities receive a tax credit from the Department of Revenue against their public utility tax liability. So the utilities are paying the incentive out to building owners, and then they file for a credit within 2 calendar years of paying out that incentive. A very important note is that this state incentive can be administered in addition to utility conservation incentives as well. So eligible buildings must be covered commercial buildings as defined by the standard, so must be over 50,000 square feet. Multifamily residential buildings over 50,000 square feet can participate in the incentive program, but they're not currently subject to mandatory compliance. The buildings must have a baseline weather normalized energy use index that exceeds the energy use intensity, EUI, target by at least 15. So that's expressed in BTUs per square foot per year. So there's a threshold. Those buildings need to be over 15 EUI over the target in order to be eligible for the incentive program. So anybody interested in participating in the program, or if you work with building owners that are interested in participating in the program, so next steps, check out the Early Adopter Incentive Guidebook. The Guidebook provides process and documents for applying for the program through the Clean Buildings portal. There is pre-application requirements, which is a self-qualification, and you need to sign up for a Secure Access Washington account and also create an Energy Star Portfolio Manager account. All of the benchmarking that's done for the program is utilizing Portfolio Manager's free online tool. And then also you need to provide your Energy Star Portfolio Manager ID to all your energy utilities serving the building. Okay, real briefly, I just want to touch upon outreach and support. I'll pause real quick. I got a question. How much of the 75 million is not currently subscribed? And how I would answer that is most of it. I think at this point in time, we have about 3 or 4 completed applications. So there's still quite a bit of incentive funding available, and going through that self-certification, self-qualification for pre-application is a great starting point, and reaching out to our team for more information. Okay, so real briefly, outreach and support. So Commerce was charged with providing customer support and technical assistance for building owners to comply with the standard. So I'll talk a little bit about the resources that we have available in the team that we have working on that. Okay, so the Clean Buildings webpage and it's kind of a website within Commerce's website. There's a number of different pages. One of our team members, Annalyn Bergen, has just worked tirelessly to create this website and continually is updating it based on feedback that we're getting from building owners and stakeholders. The website includes background information on the standard. It includes the timeline and kind of summary of our rulemaking process, archives of our stakeholder meetings. It includes information about the standard itself, links to legislative references such as the RCWs and the WACs that govern this work. It's got frequently asked questions, information on how to comply. There's a whole section for customer support and resources. So we're actively producing tools and templates and flowcharts and diagrams to help ease with understanding what is a fairly complex standard and helping building owners to comply with it. We also have information on the Early Adopter Incentive Program, and then a link to the Clean Buildings portal. And the Clean Buildings portal is our database that enables building owners to upload information and communicate with Commerce about compliance. Okay, so the Clean Buildings portal is a database that we have built, again, to interact with building owners and Commerce, and we've got utilities that can access that as well. So basically, building owners need to go into that portal and view and verify the parcel and building information. You have the ability to manage roles and authorize users to work on your parcel or your building owner. So if you have an energy manager that you want to delegate that access to, you have the ability to do that within the portal. Within the portal, you can submit incentive applications, submit compliance forms, track requirements, check on the status of applications, and make changes to your account information. Okay, I think I made it in less than 15 minutes. Okay, so on behalf of the entire Clean Buildings team at Department of Commerce, I just want to say thank you for having me here today. Please take some time to visit our webpage. There's a lot of information, and you know, just this is a detailed and complex standard. We're here to help in any way that we can. On this last slide, you'll see contact information, which is buildings@commerce.wa.gov. And that is an email inbox that's managed by our entire team. We're doing our best to have a very prompt turnaround with inquiries that come into the email inbox, but don't hesitate to reach out if you've got questions. Our team is also happy to be available to deliver presentations or targeted trainings. You know, if you're part of different associations or groups or organizations that just have some additional questions or want to learn more, we're happy to line up presentations and trainings to do so. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that come up. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Emily. And I know we'll have some time for questions at the end. We want to make sure we get to all of our speakers. And just a reminder that we can use the Q&A feature that just helps us better, track what questions have been answered and what are left to be answered. And thank you so much, Emily. And now here with us to help us learn a little bit more about programs to help you and your business comply with the Clean Buildings Law and Standards is Brian Zoller, the Major Account Executive with Puget Sound Energy. Brian, I'm passing the virtual mic over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. Good morning, everyone. Next slide, please. Do take my email address down. You may have questions that fall outside of this. We've got limited time, but Emily just outlined something that might be new to folks who have buildings that are 50,000 square feet or greater. And I just want to say here that PSC, most of you folks are in PSC territory, at least partially. We do have a program, and I'll put that program web address in the chat eventually here, that helps you understand what the law is, how to comply, how to benchmark, how to do an energy management plan and an operation and maintenance plan. We take you through a whole process that gets you to compliance and help you save energy. And this is a new thing for buildings, which is basically we want to measure them. We want to get to a point that we know where they're at, where they need to be, and the general best practices of how to get there. So PSE will help you do that if you're in our territory. So we always start with a safety moment. One of our hallmarks at PSC, bikers like myself are coming online again as it starts to, well, not this week, but soon warm up. So, bikers use your signals, and drivers pay attention, be a little gracious as we share the road. Probably good to just go over territory because utilities are notorious for having patchwork territory. And as you'll see in the yellow here, that's all of our electric territory that spans basically over approximately 10 counties. And then in green here, you see our natural gas territories. Obviously, Tacoma Power, Snohomish PUD, and Seattle City Light handle the electric in these territories. And then in the orange are combined territories where we provide both gas and electricity. And that has all implications about how we service the territories in the Puget Sound area. But we are dedicated to increasingly great customer service, safe, dependable, reliable energy, but also doing what's right, And we, as a utility, are transforming ourselves just as society is. A new policy came through, not just the Clean Buildings Law, but the Clean Energy Transformation Act, which basically commits utilities to get to net zero by 2045. And this is a huge, huge lift, because when you think of it, we're at the precipice of transforming our transportation networks, thinking about putting electrification of vehicles and fleets onto the actual grid. So that's going to increase the amount of load that we provide to customers through the grid and distribution networks. So big lift coming up. At the same time, we're committing to reduce our carbon emissions by 2030 by 80% on the electric side, 100% by 2045. But as I just mentioned, a lot of our customers use natural gas. About half of the heating done in the Puget Sound area is done through gas. So we need to figure out how to use renewable natural gas, hydrogen in the mix, and a whole bunch of energy reduction. So I just want to throw this up there because we do a lot of planning in the utility space. It's actually very complex, involves a lot of people. And we have a variety of plans that we do, 23 years out with the Integrated Resource Plan, the Clean Energy Action Plan, which is a 10-year plan to reduce energy consumption. And when I speak about this, I'm more from the viewpoint of energy efficiency. The Clean Energy Implementation Plan, that's over a 4-year period. And then we've been doing biennial conservation plans and 2-year cycles, and we just started a cycle. So that in essence takes all of the energy efficiency that we plan to do. It's planned out over 2 years. It's very methodical, and it's measure based and sector based, very granular. So I'm a major account executive on the efficiency side, and this is kind of where we sit. And we have been providing efficiency incentives for a long time. But those incentives do have to be what we consider cost effective. And that means that the benefit of doing efficiency has to outweigh the investment in a solar plant, a wind farm, or a gas plant. And so if that benefit to cost ratio is better, then we want to pay customers to reduce their usage. And frankly, of the load over the next 20 years, 80–90% of that is going to be taken care of by energy efficiency. So this is a huge deal, and it's been in the Northwest, and we do this through a variety of means, through custom and performance-based and prescriptive measures, where we look at what's going on in a building, measure it, and look at the improved case, and then base an incentive off that. Performance, we basically look at the meter and then measure the improvements to the building or the systems over time. And then prescriptive is more like a rebate, like if you replace your furnace with a high efficiency one that meets our standards, we'll pay you an incentive. And those incentives are done in different ways, directly to a customer in the form of a check or deposit. You as a customer can assign those to your contractor to reduce your burden. Sometimes we do direct install, and that's we'll actually pay a third party to go out and help hard to reach areas or maybe highly impacted or vulnerable populations throughout our territory, and just install efficiency measures for free or at very low cost. Sometimes you might be, your water heater might go out, and you want to get a high efficiency version. Sometimes they're just not available. So we do a midstream where we pay the distributor to stock it. So you may not get the incentive, but you actually get the ability to get that high efficiency water heater because we help pay down the cost for them to stock it. And then sometimes we pay manufacturers to bring efficient versions of whatever they have, like an HVAC system, to our territory, so it's available to customers. Next slide, please. I do want to say that we provide efficiency offerings and rebates all over the place. On the residential front, through all of these areas, single family, manufactured, low income, but also commercial, and industrial, agriculture. And all of that is on our website, and I wish I had time to go over some of it. But I do want to note that a lot of the new technology and innovation has to come in the space and water heating. It's roughly 75% of a home, and increasingly it's that much or more sometimes, especially with process load in businesses and industries. And so we're working hard to bring in new technologies and help customers identify what those are and help them pay down the cost of installing them in their facilities. So that's what I wanted to present. We are going to be doing a workshop next week with the chamber, and so and that's going to be geared towards commercial and industrial. So we'll go over things like commissioning, some of the industrial programs, our Clean Buildings Accelerator, if you have a building 50,000 square feet or greater. So our performance-based program. So please join us for that next week, and I'll look forward to questions at the end here. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate that overview. And yes, encourage people who are interested in more information to attend that workshop. And now with an introduction on the importance of material recovery and waste reduction, with a focus on how community collaboration promotes waste diversion, we have Zero Waste Manager Logan Harvey from Recology. Logan, over to you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I appreciate the introduction. I'm Logan Harvey. I'm the Waste Zero Manager with Recology King County. Let's go on to the next slide. So who is Recology? We are an employee-owned hauler and processor. We service 10 Puget Sound communities and also have significant representation through the state of California and also in Oregon. We service your waste stream throughout Puget County, throughout King County. We pick up your material, we haul it back to our materials recovery facility, separate it, and then bring it to recyclers who then recycle it. We also service garbage and compost that'll either go to landfill or compost streams. As I said, we're employee owned, so we're a full ESOP. We really focus on that kind of triple bottom line of sustainability. We're not publicly traded, but all of our employee owners do get shares. We also have a streetscapes division, which can do things like clean up graffiti. If your business or building gets tagged, we can go ahead and clean that up. Illegal dumping and other kinds of things like that. We have retail storefronts in Burien, Bothell, Shoreline, and Issaquah, and these sell things like reusable or bulk items like shampoos and conditioners, and reusable items as well. And then we do a lot of public education and waste consulting, which is really helpful for businesses in the area. So Recology's mission, our company motto is a world without waste, and that's really what we're trying to create, both through our stores, which promote a zero waste lifestyle, and through our consulting work, which is really the focus of my team. Our focus, as you can see from the picture the picture on the slide, is to move companies and businesses in our community from a place where they have a lot of garbage service and very little recycling and compost, to a situation where they have significantly more recycling and compost than they do garbage. And what we find is for most businesses, this is really possible for them if they're diligent and careful about how they manage their material. This is important for a number of reasons. An estimated 12% of global climate emissions come from landfills. They release methane, which is a more powerful and more potent greenhouse gas than CO2 is. It reflects more sunlight, it drives more climate change. And so really want to reduce that. And one of the ways we can reduce that is to move material, especially material that would decompose, into compost, which will complete the carbon cycle and sequester that carbon into the ground. And also through recycling, producing materials from recycled material, new materials from recycled material is significantly less energy. It takes significantly less energy to do that than to produce it for what we call virgin materials. There's also a major benefit here for businesses. In all of our contracts, I believe, except for Seattle, recycling is a free service that's included in your garbage contract. And so we see a lot of businesses, when we analyze the data that we have, that are underserved on the recycling side. This is especially true for multifamily units, but also just general businesses here. And so you can, through proper sorting of material, you can reduce your garbage stream, which will save money on a monthly cost, and move that material into the recycling and compost streams, which will save money. And compost, while it's not free, is significantly less cost per yard than garbage is. And this is especially true around restaurants. Food waste, meat, cheese, bones, all that material, things like napkins and paper towels can all move into the compost as well. And so we succeed in our mission for a world without zero waste through innovation, education, outreach, and monitoring. And that's what I'm going to be kind of talking about today. We'll go to the next slide. So one of our major innovations here in the King County region is our 2 electric trucks. And we've expanded this fleet to a number of electric service vehicles. They're great for residential areas, very, very quiet, and just kind of a nice thing to have. Struggle a little bit on hills, so the technology is still kind of ramping up before we roll it out to the whole fleet, but definitely technology we're continuing to pursue. Another piece of innovation is our Murph, or materials recovery facility. You can see it in that first image there. This was built in 2014, so it's relatively new. And we combine technologies of human sorting, so human visual sorting to remove contaminations and capture recoverable material, but also integrated technology like AI technology, kind of old school physical movers that can separate the paper screens and cardboard screens that can separate the paper and cardboard out. We have what we call eddy current separators that separate our aluminum from the rest of the material. And this really provides a very high quality, clean product that we can ensure can be sold. We get a lot of questions from folks about how, when things go in the recycling bin, are they actually recycled? And when you have a high quality process like this, we're able to reduce the contamination in our final product significantly and get that material recycled. We've also committed to recycling our material locally. And I'm proud to say for the last, months that I've been checking, all of our material has been recycled in the US or Canada. So it's been going to local sources. A lot of our paper goes even to Tacoma, so it stays local, as well as our glass stays in the Washington region as well. So a great thing, and an opportunity for businesses to come out and check our Murph, check out our Murph as well. So get in contact with me, and we'd love to have you come tour and see how this facility works. Education is another big piece of what we do at Recology. Our stores are kind of a front and center piece of that. And so this is a place for people to look at different options that they may not have realized. Options, instead of going with cellophane or saran wrap, they can go with beeswax wraps that they can reuse. Instead of going with buying a new shampoo bottle every week, you can go ahead and get bulk shampoo, conditioner, soap, toothpaste, and items like that. So really wonderful place to check out. Lots of recycled materials, lots of local producers represented in the store. And then we do a number of classes. So these have reopened everywhere except for Bothell, which will be reopening soon. I encourage you to check out a great location for our place for our education. Our education is not done in stores. We have a lot of material that we can provide to businesses and multifamily units in the King County area. So here's just kind of a sampling of these. We have signage to put up in front of bins. We come out and do presentations and trainings to employees to help them understand how to properly sort material to avoid contamination fees, and then also keep that recycling and composting rate higher to reduce the burden of the trash bill. And we've got door hangers that we've just rolled out this year that we'll be putting on multifamily buildings to alert tenants of what is properly recyclable. All of these kinds of materials ensure that we continue, even after we've gone and done a physical door-to-door in-person training, we continue that educational process. And it's very clear. We try to use high quality images of actual material that people might see, try to reduce as much language as possible and make it intuitive, because we have a lot of different languages and cultures represented here in the King County region. But we also have bilingual translation, at least into Spanish. And on our websites, you can find flyers in about 13 different languages that you can print out and use in your businesses, shops, or anything else. We also engage in a lot of outreach. So events have kind of shut down throughout the nation for the past 2 years, but they're coming back. We love to go out and be at events, answer questions, offer services. We have this little tiny sorting game that's really fun for kids. It was cool being at the Issaquah Salmon Days Festival and having kids come out and play the sorting game last year. And we're excited to roll this out at farmers markets. But we also do door-to-door and in-person education to tenants and businesses. So if you need us to come out, you want us to host a training for your employees, we're always happy to do that. If you want us to come out and audit your services, take a look at what you could move into different locations, how you could better streamline your services to both save money and reduce your impact on the planet. That's something that we could really, we would love to come out and do. So you can always look at us at rkcwaste0@recology.com, shoot us an email, and we'll take care of that. We also provide a bit of monitoring and tracking for our cities. This is to reduce contamination. And so we have 4 cities where we have a contamination contract. And this is primarily a tool to gauge outreach. So we do an annual audit of all commercial recycling bins in the cities that we have this as part of our contract. We notice the ones that are contaminated, and we do outreach to them. So we send them a letter of what the contamination was. We'll do a site visit and a phone call to try to outreach and find out, if there's somebody we can get in contact with, if there's a way we can better serve to reduce that contamination. And we file reports to the city on kind of where we're seeing the contamination, what it is. Primarily, this is plastic bags and film. If there's one thing you take away from this presentation, please have it be, 1, we can save you money by reducing your recycling stream, and you should be recycling. And 2, do not put plastic bags or film plastic into your recycling bin. But this is a great way for us to do direct customer outreach and really understand what's going on in each of our cities and provide that targeted outreach to customers who are clearly struggling with contamination and knowing what should go into their bins. So yeah, our goal is to create a world without waste. This is the King County landfill. It's the most beautiful landfill in the world, or at least has the most beautiful black backdrop in the world. And we want to reduce the amount of material that's being sent here for two reasons. I mean, one, the greenhouse gas emissions that come from it are really important to capture, but also this is an important resource that only has a few years of life left. And once it's full, it's done. That garbage will never go away. And we'll have to find a new thing to do with our garbage, which will result in most likely increased garbage rates and increased tipping fees and developing another landfill somewhere else. So this is a problem that we've got to address and figure out ways that we can reduce the amount of material that we use and recycle and recover what we can. And that's really what we're about here at Recology. Again, my name is Logan Harvey. You can contact me at LHARVEY@recology.com. I'll put it in the chat. I neglected to put it on the last slide. But we're always happy to come out, do a waste audit, train your folks, and have you come out to the Murph to see what we've got going on there. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Logan. Really appreciate that. And now please welcome our next presentation with BioLife Plasma's Tukwila Center Manager, Luke Friedrich, as we take a look at an example of how one local business is prioritizing and implementing their sustainability plan. Luke, over to you.
Thank you. Okay, we can go on to the next slide, please. That's what I get for not providing a headshot photo. So that's an actual photo of our facility, which I could argue is one of the more beautiful plasma centers in the country. We get the fancy wood paneling, which is nice. Okay, so what we do is we collect plasma from healthy eligible donors, and it essentially gets shipped off and manufactured into life-saving medications. So the biggest things that our plasma-derived therapeutic medication serves is people with immunodeficiency disorders, hemophilia therapies, blood volume replacement, alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency treatments, and therapies for different types of hereditary angioedemas and things like that. So across the industry, over 57 million liters of plasma are used worldwide to produce life-saving medicines. So the impact is huge, right? We're helping millions of people every year. There's some basic eligibility things on there, but we won't spend too much time on that. So our parent company is a Japanese-based company founded in 1781 named Takeda. And we are part of the plasma-derived therapies business unit. So within that, we are rapidly expanding. In the few weeks that this slide deck has existed, it's already a little outdated. We have just opened the 168th facility in the United States, and there's more globally. The plasma that we collect represents roughly 27% of what gets collected in the US market. BioLife, as somebody who came from different plasma companies throughout the country, I can say with certainty that BioLife is the best. We do it better than anybody else. We have the technologies in place for high volume, high customer service, and we look good doing it. So it's a great place to be. And that also, translates to thousands of jobs worldwide, globally, and not only in our local communities, but we'll touch base on that in a few moments. So this is the basic environmental commitment plan that we have. So by 2025, significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from our own operations, diversion of waste from landfills to alternate resources, and reduction of fresh water consumption. By 2030, we'll have the diversion of waste 100% completed, and then you can see where we're at by 2040, the 100% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and then a 50% reduction in our supplier emissions. So our current timeline, we spent a significant amount on collecting data. We did that through an efficiency and carbon neutrality study. The next step was all new centers that open, beginning with us here in Tukwila, are going to be all electric facilities. And we'll talk more about what that really means. If you squint really hard, you can see me on the top right of that little photo there. We just opened up at the end of August, so about 6 months in now. Things are looking good. I've doubled the size of our staff, so we're now up to about 50 different jobs that we've put into the community. Roughly a few $1 million in donor fees paid out, all of this going right back into the local communities. The company is starting a nationwide project, the Green Project. So various specific sustainability measurable things. For instance, we're starting with how long are we keeping our freezer door open in our facility? and what's the impact of that. So installing devices to really measure that and finding ways to reduce everywhere we can. This is, we don't even have paper towels in the bathrooms and things like that. So really trying to find every specific measure and leaving no stone unturned, finding finding the minutia in how we can make a bigger impact if we get everybody on board with this. So some of the key benefits, obviously eliminating the use of natural gas as a fossil fuel is going to have a significant impact within our local communities, reducing local emissions, demonstrating stewardship. That's kind of the name of the game. And then the use of existing successful all-electric sites, and obviously continuing to make the commitment to all future sites that open, starting with us. So we were 157, center number 157 opened in August. We've opened 10 since then. All of them are now electric. So we do this through engaging with our donors. Customer service is the name of the game. We demonstrate that both internally and externally. Not only if you walk into our door will you be treated appropriately and with respect, you'll see each other. All of our staff, we take a great deal of pride in that. And again, supporting economic health in our communities. Providing jobs, providing additional sources of revenue income for our healthy and eligible donors. And then, reason why I'm here, to engage with our local community members and get in touch with everybody there to make everyone aware of who we are, what we're here to do, and how we can help. So our key components of our strategic focus are going to be, we're here to serve more patients through the plasma we collect. We want this to be the best place. Donors have an option of where they go. We're not the only game in town. Want this to be the best place to donate. Want this to be the best place to work for our employees. Our employees also have, if you're a certified phlebotomist, there's a lot of options where you can work, but many people choose to work here for good reason. We do all this through optimizing the business, but also showing that we care about things like sustainability and reducing the negative impact we're having in our local, national, and global environments. This just gives a quick idea of where we're located. You'll notice there's only one spot located in Washington on this map. That is already incorrect. We've got 5 centers total. California in the last 6 months is now covered in dots that are yet to be included on the latest versions of the maps that our company is releasing to allow to be showed in public format. So rapid expansion, wide net all over the place. So what you can expect as a donor in BioLife is, we are committed to our well-being. That also includes, we have very stringent, strict COVID protocols, physical distancing, routine cleaning, the usual things that you see. And we take those very seriously. So one of the ways that helps with that is being very appointment-based. Our facilities are very modern, high quality. We compensate our donors for the time that it takes for the commitment of donating plasma. And, we can offer that in, a good looking space with a lot of comfort in mind for the donors themselves. And we have an extreme commitment to regulatory compliance. So this kind of outlines where the bulk of our emissions going and what's in our initial scope of what we're trying to tackle. So aside from our purchased electricity, natural gas and refrigerant is a huge thing. Freezers are a huge part of our operation. We have to freeze the plasma immediately that we collect. That obviously requires a lot of energy. Also looking at our company-owned vehicles, fuel combustion, things like that. So those are the things that are involved in the initial scope to try to be tackled. All right, looks like that is a wrap for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Luke. Really appreciate it. Today certainly was an opportunity to hear from some of the Pacific Northwest top sustainability leaders about challenges, opportunities, and strategies for creating greener practices. I'd like to bring back all of our exceptional speakers now to the virtual stage to have a brief facilitated chat. Joining with us today is our panel facilitator, Max Gittleman, a graduate from Western Washington University's Business and Sustainability program. Max, I'm going to turn it over to you to facilitate a chat. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrea. I'm excited to be here facilitating such a great group of people. To make sure that everyone gets to speak and we get through as many questions as possible, our speakers' answers will have to be about 60 seconds, so pretty quick. Speakers, if you reach the end of your time, feel free to put some of your remaining thoughts in the chat. So let's jump right into it with the first question. So how do you see individual businesses and public sector organizations working together to benefit the larger community both currently as well as where you see our communities heading. And I think it makes sense to start this discussion with Emily.
All right, that gives me the least amount of time to consider my answer. So Max, I'm going to answer that question, I think, just from the lens of like my expertise and where I spend my time, which is the building sector, right? Like buildings play such an important role in community. They're where we gather, they're where we learn, they're where we go to work. And buildings can be such a supportive environment when we think about indoor air quality and the role that they play within community. So when I think about business and public sector kind of opportunities, it's reducing carbon emissions from buildings, it's improving indoor air quality so we can live vibrant, healthy, and connected lives through healthy buildings. How'd I do? Was that less than 50 seconds?
I believe so. Yeah, does anyone else want to jump in?
I think that's I'll go ahead. It's obviously necessary for the public sector and private businesses to work together to solve this problem. And so by that virtue, I think it will happen. We've already seen in our industry, almost every city in King County sign on to an agreement to reduce waste sent to landfill or improve diversion to 70% by 2035. And the state legislature is moving to do that. And we, the private business, are caught in the middle of that. So we're in support fully of these kinds of legislation, but we're also implementing it. So we have to figure out private ways that we can be successful as a company, but also make sure that we're diverting as much as possible, providing the educational materials that people need and educating businesses on how they can better manage their waste. So that partnership is critical if we're going to be successful in reducing climate emissions and becoming a more sustainable world.
Yeah, and then Luke, you looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, maybe it seems obvious, but collaboration is key. None of us can necessarily make huge headway on our own. So finding things, even as simple as, hey, I've got extra office furniture. What opportunities exist to be able to offload this somewhere else so it doesn't just end up in a landfill and things like that. So having things like this, summits, using the Chamber of Commerce, being collaborative so we can, have maybe a forum opportunity to, hey, these are the struggles I'm having. Who has any suggestions or ideas of how we can collaborate, come together, and find some of these resolutions?
Max, I would just add to that, to the point of collaboration. I think, just looking at the panel here, obviously Emily's working on implementing a law, and she can't do that easily without the utilities' participation, right? And so we're supporting their efforts to help building owners improve their buildings. Recology can't really do their electric fleets unless we improve the grid to provide charging stations and support in their efforts to expand that their whole fleet becomes electrified. And in biopharma, with 75% refrigeration, that's an expensive cost, and we want to support them to help them improve the refrigeration, reduce their energy burden and energy costs. So it's these little points of intersections that we have to continually seek out and support each other, both as communities, municipalities, and individuals.
Great. Yeah. Does anyone have any more thoughts on the topic? Great. Then move on to another question. What benefits do communities becoming more sustainable give individuals in those communities? And then sort of conversely, what benefits do businesses get from being in more sustainable communities?
Well, I think, at least from the recycling side of things, the benefits for businesses for our side is just the way that our contracts are structured. We kind of structure them in a way that the more you are sustainable with your waste stream, the lower price you'll pay, because we're able to sell those recoverable materials and make money off them. And so that kind of collection and not throwing what to us is kind of treasure into your garbage is a great thing for communities. Obviously, all the potential issues of climate change, whether it be difficulty with dealing with extreme weather events, sea level rise, all these kinds of things really threaten our ability to kind of move forward as a community. So reducing that is obviously a benefit. There's also a lot of jobs created through additional regulation as we expand with requirements around the waste stream. We'll probably hire more education folks. We'll hire more garbage truck drivers to pick up more compost. And so these jobs are created through sustainability actions as well. Improving infrastructure does that too. And then on top of that, just cleaner air, cleaner water always provide long-term benefits. People getting sick from those kinds of things have, difficult to see, but very, very drastic economic impacts on regions. So, yeah.
And I would just plus one Logan's response from the energy perspective and reducing operating costs. Like there's just incredible benefits to businesses becoming more sustainable in how they use energy and operate their buildings. Reduces operating costs for the account holder for the utility. So that may be a tenant or it may be a building owner. In the event of like a building owner, buildings that are using less energy, typically we see higher value from a real estate standpoint. And so they're just improved indoor air quality and health of occupants. So there's, I guess from my perspective, just immense benefits from a business standpoint.
I would frankly just echo the air quality, the operational improvements, which is reduced costs, but the big factor for me really is jobs. I can't tell you how many unique new jobs there are in the marketplace. At PSC, we have 150 jobs open right now. And a lot of those are new that didn't exist. My role did not exist at PSC before a year ago. And so there's just a renaissance, frankly, in new job creation that many of us who've been in this field for a long time are probably as surprised as anyone. It's really kicking in. So it's an exciting time to be part of this type of advance.
Luke, do you feel you have anything to add, or?
Yeah, just echoing as a healthcare facility, obviously we want we take people's health seriously. We want that. So by reducing dangerous emissions, the reduction of plastic, everything in the environment, that's obviously the huge step forward to that. So just being cognizant of the environmental and health impacts, because we can't say in good faith that we're here to, better the health of humanity as a whole without, in the same breath, knocking a bunch of CO2 emissions into the atmosphere. So taking those strides.
All right. So thank you all so much. Those were extremely insightful answers. And I think that I'm going to throw it back to Andrea now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Max. And, thank you to all of our amazing speakers. We really appreciate you sharing your insight and your perspective with us and our community this morning. I wanted to just remind you that now is your chance to register early for future events and to save on your in-person ticket price. We will still have an option for you to join on Zoom if you do not want to attend in person, but we are starting to make that move to in-person event planning, which we are very excited about being able to do in a safe way. In April, the 2022 Pacific Northwest Education and Workforce Summit will bring together subject matter experts, industry leaders, business owners, community members to provide insight into the status of the school to work pipeline in our region. State Superintendent Chris Reichdahl will be delivering that keynote. And we hope that you will join us for this innovative summit and add your voice to the conversation as it relates to education and workforce development and that intersection of business and education. In June, we'll bring back our Equity Summit. This collaborative event is produced in partnership with our chamber, the Renton and Kent Chambers, again, to gather regional business leaders, policymakers, and most importantly, the community together to find real solutions to the challenges our community faces, specifically the economic inequity, still unfortunately very prevalent in our community. We hope that you will join us to uplift the voices of our community and to help create a more equitable and sustainable community. We hope to see you at all of our events and summits. Go to our website to check out our calendar, learn more, and to register. And now I believe it is time for us to announce a door prize winner. And drum roll, please. The winner is Aaron Sieverts. So Aaron, you get to go to one of my very favorite restaurants, 909 Coffee and Wine in Old Burien, and you also get to drink some amazing coffee and wine, which are my two favorite things to drink. So enjoy, Aaron. We're so happy that you were able to be here today. And a huge thanks to Molly's Caribbean for their contribution and to let us have that amazing door prize. And again, what a wonderful incentive. Plan your Caribbean vacation today. Again, thank you so much on behalf of our board, our staff. We're so grateful that you took the time to be with us here today. Thank you again to our speakers, to our sponsors, BioLife Plasma, the Washington State Department of Commerce, Recology, Puget Sound Energy, Molly's Caribbean, and David Inman Productions. We know bringing opportunities like this to share information and connect will make our community stronger. And we hope that you will join us for more of these opportunities. And if you or your company is able to sponsor and contribute to our work so that we can continue to serve our community in and through every challenge. Every little bit helps. Even a donation of $1 brings us closer to recovery and helps keep our nonprofit strong and able to serve you and our community. Again, thank you so much for attending our Pacific Northwest Sustainability Summit. And until next time, goodbye, stay safe out there and warm.